So, welcome everybody. Welcome back to the Ishtar Channel podcast. Conversations that are really designed to support you to make a deeper connection to your spiritual self. And, with that in mind, Ishtar, I was thinking before we jumped on together, was thinking about the 12 universal laws that often in our day-to-day life we don't even think about. In fact, in all honesty, who really stops to think about laws of consciousness that govern us here in this amazing creation space, and what they might be and how they might support us. The concept of universal laws that are working in the background, whether we're conscious to it or not, and what might change in our reality and in our experience day to day if we became a little more conscious to them. So that's where I'd love us to take the conversation today, and to see how exploring the universal laws, and in particular, some laws that you feel are perhaps imperative to where we are today, at that pinnacle of so much upheaval, so much uncertainty, so much. You can feel it when you're out there in communities. And as you often say, our audience who tune into us are looking for support. They're looking for tools. They're looking for conversations that can leave them and leave their nervous system in a more balanced, regulated state to meet the day ahead. So, with that in mind, how might we explore the universal laws and the laws that you feel are most pertinent at the moment to offering support, hope, and some tools to manage today's uncertainty, often fear, that comes with the uncertainty, the anxiety that comes with the uncertainty. We're in such a political upheaval everywhere, globally, in the world today. How can we offer some harmony and some balance and bring some peace into our inner environment, into our inner experience, whilst the turmoil continues to cycle in the outer world?
Well, I think I'm going to come back a little bit to when you're talking about leaving everyone with a nervous system that's a little bit calmer. And, understanding that our consciousness, the consciousness we hold, impacts our nervous system. It impacts everything. It impacts our thoughts. It impacts how our physical bodies, our emotion, our nervous systems. All of those things is dependent upon the consciousness that we hold and the vibrational level of that consciousness. And the reason I'm saying that is because universal laws, unlike what I feel that many believe, are not rules for life. They're not telling you how to behave. They don't tell you what to do, because they're not about that. They're not the 10 Commandments, and they're not laws that are about behavior, but they affect our behavior. So they're actually about consciousness, and they talk about the creation energy that flows through this universe and how it impacts, particularly in our dimension, on the physical. So we talk about these 12 laws, and the reason we talk about these 12 is because it was what I was given by the masters a long time ago. And they're talked about on many levels through many spiritual pathways. But what we're really talking about is flow of energy in the universe and how that impacts us. And the funny thing is that we don't understand a lot of the time that energy that flows through the universe impacts us all, whether we're in a physical body or not. It is conscious living energy, and it impacts us. And when we really understand our relationship with the universe, which is what the universal laws are all about, we then understand how it impacts us. and how we can flow with it or we can flow against it, you know, and this makes a difference to how you live your life. So talking about all the upheaval and what we've got going on at the moment on this planet is really talking about the consciousness of humanity right now. Where is the consciousness of humanity? And I do know there's lots of people that are in a lot of fear right now. There are a lot of people who are also just pretending it's all fine and put our heads in the sand and we don't want to look at it. People who think they know the secrets and the answers and hold those secrets and answers as their, more or less like their barrier, their armor of protection about what is really going on. And believing that that knowledge that they have that no one else has is really going to protect them from the world around them in some way. And there's also people that are really stuck on, you know, everything's set in stone. There's nothing we can do. It's all going to play out this way. And everyone has their stories of how it's going to play out. But in that, not recognizing these 12 universal laws, not recognizing that there is a creation consciousness flowing through this universe that impacts all of us. And how anything is going to play out is dependent on how all of us choose to react to the consciousness, the energy that is flowing out in the world around us, in this universe, and how it's impacting us, and whether we're consciously connecting with it and choosing to flow with it, or whether we're in full resistance and we're ignoring it and believing it won't affect us. But the problem with that is that it will affect us no matter what we think or do. So I want to talk about two laws that impact each and every physical being, that has a mind, that has an intellect, that thinks, that has free will. And these two laws are the law of resonance, a lot of people call that the law of attraction, and the law of reflection. We call it the law of resonance because it's all about vibrational energy, vibrational consciousness. And so it's called the law of attraction by many because the law of resonance, vibration attracts other vibrations that are similar. So people come together for those reasons. And of course, the law of reflection, which is the mirror that's facing you, that's coming to meet you. And always remember that when you look in the mirror, you're never getting the real picture because you're always getting the reverse of the picture. So when you look in the mirror, it's, you know, that law of reflection. Your reflection is never the same as what it is in this reality. It's a different reality that you're looking at. So law of reflection, law of resonance, these two laws play out all the time. It's a consciousness that is moving through this planet, through the consciousness of every human being in this universe, and it affects us, whether we want to admit that or whether we don't. So all that we feel and all that we sense really flows on these two laws of resonance and reflection. And of course, what's coming to meet us, what we're seeing and what we're reacting to in our world is the law of reflection. What are we seeing? What are we looking at? It's reflecting back to us the consciousness that we hold within ourselves. Because whatever consciousness, also beliefs and thoughts, programs, expectations, attachments that we hold in this being that we are, gets reflected back to us 24/7 in our world, constantly interacting with us. So however you're seeing your world is seen through the eyes of what you already hold.
Before you continue, I'd love just to, because, and I speak from the confusion that I had when I first started to work with the laws. And I love, first of all, how you've differentiated between 10 commandments, rules, regulations.
Yes, because they're not rules and regulations at all.
Exactly.
They're laws, but they're not laws on any, you know, level, nor are they rules of behavior.
And so it's quite it's funny how we choose to label them.
Yes.
Laws.
Laws.
I think perhaps a way of relating to them is that they hold a governance in how they interact and flow in the universe. But just coming back to the law of reflection, this analogy of this reverse mirror, because it took me a while to get my head around, well, what's she really meaning? What's she talking about? And I've come to relate to it, or the analogy I give when I'm, working with students is, somebody comes and they reflect something to you. Often we think that what they're reflecting is whatever energy they're holding. Oh, they're reflecting that to me. I must hold that.
Yes.
And that was my confusion when I started working with the laws. And what I came to realize as I learned the correct way of relating to that energy and what that reflection was from me personally is if somebody was standing in front of you and they were holding up a mirror for you to look into, who are you actually looking at? Are you looking at them, or are you looking at yourself? Who do you look at in that mirror? That became then for me, oh, right. It's not about them.
No.
It's about me. And that helped me to reorientate my focus, because let's face it, when we're triggered, which is what the law of reflection is all about, bringing something to us that creates a reaction in us. And so when we go into a reactive experience, we're often focused on what it is that we feel has stimulated a reaction, which is often what someone else is either doing or saying or not saying. And that's what we're reacting to. But what I've come to over the years understand is that we're actually reacting to the energy within us that has been stimulated by that person, place, thing, situation, whatever it might be. So I'm just, as you go on, I'm just hoping that people will start to recognize that, it's not about the other person. And whilst it's not about the other person, they might be projecting an energy to you. And you might hold that same energy, but you have to pay attention, first of all, to what's alive within you and what's kind of coming up for you before you can make that decision on what that energy is. So could you build on that?
I will. I feel that we need to also come back to the premise of understanding that we are here to learn. We're not here to be reactive or to be triggered or to be resistant, although we do all the time. But we are here we're here to grow. We're here to, people talk about we're here to enlighten, we're here to ascend, but you can't enlighten or ascend unless you grow or evolve. So firstly, we're here as a soul to grow and evolve. And so when we speak about the universal laws, this is the consciousness of the universe that actually supports us to do that. So it's flowing all the time. It's a very creative consciousness. It's a very effective consciousness. It has an impact on all of us. And we can ignore it, but we can't not be affected by it. We can pretend we're not affected by it, but we will always be affected by it. So I firmly am of the belief that it's much better to understand something and go with it than to constantly ignore it and fight against it. But everyone has their own choice in that, of course. But once again, the law of reflection is that it's the energy of the universe will always bring something to you to have a look at yourself so you can grow and learn about yourself. So whenever there is a reactive energy, and it doesn't matter how that can be, the reactive energy could be anger, or the reactive energy could be some sort of enlightenment. The person's come to share with you something, and that's, triggered a light bulb moment in your life where you suddenly evolve into a new understanding of something. So it can be any of those things. That's still a reaction to something that's come to meet you. And that's the law of reflection. It brings something to meet you that you need to meet, that the universe is saying, hey, have a look at this, whatever it might be, and learn from this. But it's not about the other person. And I remember, people always saying that thing, you point your finger at the other person, but there's always three fingers, I think it is, pointing back at you, And it's about the energy coming back to you. What are you here to learn? What is there in this that's for you? And that's the law of reflection. And then, of course, we have the law of resonance, or what we call the law of attraction. And it always works with the law of reflection. It's never separate. It always works together. And one will play off the other, because it's consciousness coming to you to learn something about yourself. And it's still the same with the law of resonance. It's why people call it the law of attraction, but you will attract to you the same vibration of energy that you hold. You will pull that to you in some way. And I always remember many, many years ago, the masters telling me something that I was quite astounded by, because I was like, that the universe will support you in whatever you want to bring to you. So when you work with the law of resonance, you will be attracting to you whatever energy you hold within yourself, whatever vibration of consciousness that you hold. And so then that will be a magnet to that same vibration of energy that will come to you. So it's sort of saying, that whatever consciousness that you hold within yourself, you will attract that to you. Now, I always say to students, remember, your reality, the world around you, reflects the consciousness that you hold. And this is the truth of the law of resonance and the law of reflection. It's there to show you what consciousness you hold within you. And it's beautifully shown in the world that you create for yourself. So it's important to understand that you are creating your reality in every moment, and you create it through these two flows of consciousness, or universal laws, as we call them. Maybe we need to come up with a better name for them, but they're called universal laws for a reason. And I know they've been around for a long time, but they affect our reality, and they're here to show us what we are creating, because we are creator beings. We're here to create constantly our reality. We're here to create our consciousness. And these are the two energies that work with us all the time to show us what we're creating. So whatever you're bringing into your world, whatever energies that you're pulling into your world, will be firstly either a reflection for you or a resonance for you. So it's either going to be showing you what you hold or what you need to look at. So it can be either or, and sometimes both work together. So it's so important to understand that we are bringing to us we attract the same energy to us, which is why you find people come together with the same beliefs and the same thoughts, because they want to be affirmed and confirmed in those beliefs and thoughts. So they're going to be attracted to groups of people who have the same beliefs and thoughts, where they can feel comfortable, where they can feel accepted, where they can feel heard, where they can feel affirmed for those same beliefs and thoughts, or confirmed. And when that's not happening, perhaps the law of reflection might come to them to show them, if there's somebody comes to them, that might trigger some understanding of what they're holding. So it's really important to understand this is simply consciousness moving in our world all the time. It's like waves of energy moving all the time through our world that affect us in some way. And so if your world is not looking too good right now, your immediate world, I'm not talking about the bigger world, but your immediate world, your immediate reality, it's a really good time to stop and have a check and just check up on your consciousness. Now, your consciousness is going to affect the beliefs you hold. It's going to affect the thoughts you have. It's going to affect the programs you run, your habitual behaviors. It's also going to affect your expectations of yourself and of others. And it's going to affect your attachments, what you're attaching yourself to, whether it be people or things, or you talked about politics, maybe political viewpoints, whatever else. And you need to ask yourself, what is the energy behind these that is causing me to bring all of this into my world? So, you know, that you're bringing all of this energy, whatever it is. Now, if it's energy that brings peace and calm, and, you know, you feel very comfortable, very safe in your environment, then obviously there's a vibration you're holding that's creating that for you. And that's part of your consciousness. And then when there's discord and harmony in your world, you need to have a look and see what energies or consciousness you're holding, what vibrations of energy that sit within you that are pulling that to you. And what you're learning from that, is there something you need to learn? Maybe it's causing you to let go of something that needs to be let go of. And that can be really important, because sometimes it's important to have a little feng shui moment where we clear out our environment. And that can be people we know, that can be things we do, things we become attached to, you know, consumerism, whatever that might be. It might be a career move, it might be a hobby move, maybe we find a new hobby, let go of an old hobby, you know, all of these sort of things, because change is inevitable in all things, and to grow we need change. So it comes to us in that way, so that, you know, whether through reflection or through resonance, that we're learning something in our environment. Now, we all have free will, so we can choose to ignore it, the little messages that come to us from the universe, or we can choose to take a moment to learn from it and go, okay, well, this is telling me I need to do whatever it might be. And it's very important for us to understand that and not to judge. It's simply a choice. We can choose to ignore, or we can choose to follow and learn, and then, you know, grow. And the thing is that so many of us are seeking guidance. We're wanting guidance about our life all the time, always looking for guidance, which is why we go to psychics, astrologers, all of these things all the time. And yet, through the law of resonance and reflection, we are constantly being given guidance by the universe. Every single day, in every moment, the universe is guiding us to something, simply through those two flows of energy, of consciousness, that are moving around us and within us all the time. But the question is, are we listening?
You know, I've been sitting with, you know, really contemplating the role of vulnerability in life. And you mentioned, you know, three key ways in which we meet energy in our life through our free will. We either shove our head in the sand, it's not really happening, or we try and control it with our knowledge and the understanding we do have, which can be very limited, but we try to, you know, control it from that place of the intellect. Or we can, as you said, again, reside to, oh, well, this is the way it is, so it is what it is, you know, another kind of spiritual bypass. And, you know, I've been sitting contemplating the role of vulnerability in relationship to how we meet the universal laws. And those three examples that we've just said about, you know, how we meet that energy really does reflect where we're sitting in our being of vulnerability.
Yes.
And, you know, we often speak about vulnerability. It has, it has some beautiful qualities if we're willing to lean into the discomfort of that vulnerability. But, you know, those three examples that you gave for how we meet energy are examples of the shield that we put up around us energetically, often unconsciously. But it's a shield to us feeling vulnerable, because when energy comes to meet us that doesn't feel good, doesn't feel nice, can trigger us. What's really being triggered, of course, is our vulnerability. So when we look at how we can learn from our vulnerability, and rather than look at vulnerability, as many people do, as a place not to go, I don't want to feel vulnerable. How can we reframe and shift that perspective, that vulnerability is actually offering us an opportunity to grow? What if we lent into the vulnerability of being wrong, the vulnerability of what if I lifted my head out of the sand and actually faced what was coming to meet me? What if I stopped trying to use my intellect and everything I knew and actually went, you know what? I haven't got a clue. What do I do now?
Yeah.
You know, what if we lent into the vulnerability of it is happening, and you know, what do I do with it? Do I just go, well, it is the way it is, so you know, I have no say and I have no choice? Or can I lean into the fear, the discomfort? How would you speak to using or learning to work with the laws to support us to lean into vulnerability so that it can be a path of growth for us rather than a path of fear and suffering?
Well, firstly, what comes to mind is that I think it's really important to be curious, and I'm a very curious soul, so I always love to investigate things and look into things in a different way. I like to connect with things and try and understand the process of what I'm experiencing. And that can take months for me sometimes before I'm really, you know, at a depth of it. And I think it's important to understand that often we think we process something really quickly, and it could take us a day or a week just to understand it. And I think then we're not really allowing it to sit deeply within us when we do that we try and rush through it. You know, it's important sometimes to let the understanding come over a period of time. And often, you know, when we let that happen, we understand more and more. We understand one thing, and then we might wait for weeks and something else will understand more into the depth of whatever it is. But I think not everyone's that curious. So it's important to be curious in your life. I think like a child that loves to be curious about the wonders of the world, and everything is the wonder of the world. And I think that, you know, whether it's somebody suffering in pain or somebody, you know, in their anger or their fear, or somebody who's sitting in their peace, it doesn't matter. Where they're all sort of miracles of this world. They're all part of the wonder, and we all are, and we all suffer at times, and we all have those amazing enlightened times, and you know, because we are all wonders of the world. We're the miracles of the world, because we are this incredible sentient being that's been given this gift of life. So that makes us that miracle, that wonder. I feel that when we're looking at what's going on around us, if we're doing it simply through the process of our mind, it makes it so much more black and white. It makes it so much right and wrong. And we fall back on old beliefs that frankly have not served humanity for thousands of years. They're beliefs that are there, but they've not served humanity in any way for thousands of years. And a lot of them haven't helped humanity to grow and evolve as the miracle of life that we are. I feel that when we open ourselves to connect with that miracle that we are, that wonder that we are, we begin to connect with that inner sense of who we are, that spirit of who we are. And so when we begin to have that conversation with that part of us and really sit with that part of us and make a connection deeply with that part of us, then we will be encouraged to lift our head out of the sand, to understand that nothing is set in stone, that it isn't just the way it is because it is. There is no set in stone. Things are constantly changing all the time. And in this universe, there's no sort of destiny written and it's never going to change. You know, the prophecies from Nostradamus, and they're never going to change. Yes, some have come true, but lots haven't. And things change because we change, and the universe changes, constantly changes. And speak to any astronomer about that. And the universe is constantly changing, vibrating at different vibrations. And so when we meet that part of us, then we begin to get that the wonder of the child comes in, because that spirit that's part of us is that miracle and is the wonder of the child. It has that wonder of life, and it looks around its reality and wants to understand it because it wants to learn. And so those parts of us that simply want to live through the intellect, through what we think we know, are really going to be pushed by that spirit to open to something else. Because when we make that connection, that spirit wants to open up to something else. It wants to understand its physical world. And it approaches it as the wonder of a child, in that wonderment, because it sees it in that way. And so it really becomes very curious and really wants to understand more and more how we as a physical being interact with the consciousness of the universe. And I feel that the more that we connect with that part of us, and the less we limit ourselves, and the more that we connect with that part of us, the less we have a need to be right or wrong, because we understand there is really no right or wrong. There is simply, there is what is, yes, but there it exists, and therefore it is, and we can have a different relationship with whatever that is. And I think that's the thing when we say, oh, it is what it is. It's about, well, yes, it does exist, but what relationship are you having with that existence? And how is that affecting you? And the more you connect with your spirit, the more your spirit wants to understand that, because that's its purpose of being present here. And so the more we open to that beautiful connection, to that wonderment that we are, which is spirit, the more we do want to become more curious, we do want to connect more deeply with who we are on all levels, not just on a mental level or an emotional level or a physical level, but on all levels of our being. And so we become very curious about those things. And we're much more open to be vulnerable, because we're much more open to connection. And we then begin to look at the beliefs that we hold around vulnerability, and the thing that, you know, that anything that comes to attack us or that comes into our reality that is not something we want or expect, whether it be ill health, whether it be negativity, whether it be political activity, whatever it is, you know, instead of being in resistance to it, we then have a different perspective to it. So we then start to look at things, we're not fighting against everything. We're actually looking to understand it, to see it in its existence and our relationship with it. And what is our relationship to this? And how do we interact with it? You know, I think I had a wonderful experience recently with a political person who I won't name, but you'll probably all know. And I must admit, I had a lot of anger towards this person for a long time. And because I thought that their behavior was not appropriate. But I really, when I sat with Spirit and talked to Spirit about it, I was shown a different perspective. And I was shown that this behavior is really something that, once more, is the law of reflection. It's showing us a reflection, and what are we holding within ourselves? And are we holding any of this within ourselves, or that we're in total judgment of, or are we, looking at this and seeing that this exists, and what's our relationship with this? And I think that that was important, because I realized then that there's always a reason for everything. So this particular political person was showing to the world and to myself, but to the vulnerability that we all have. And that we can go along and put our head in the sand and pretend that we're not vulnerable and that we can do something about this. Or we can understand that we are vulnerable here and we need to act on this and choose a different way of learning about this. So what is this person teaching us about the present state of affairs? And that was interesting, because it took me to another perspective of what this person was doing. And so, yes, being shown through the law of reflection, my vulnerability, my anger and judgment around this, and showing me that, my fear coming up, and also then showing me the different way of perspective, a different perspective of looking at it from a particular place of learning. And this person was actually teaching humanity about something. So we can have those sort of people in our lives. They can be close friends, they can be family, they can be a political person that's showing us, that this is a possibility. You can go this way, or there is another possibility, and that we have choices on what direction we want to go in, and the ramifications of those choices. And I felt that that was really important, that we learn about that we have people in history that come and do that. And that's all the reflection. That's the consciousness of reflection. And that they come to us as a group called humanity, or they come to us in our family, in our own little reality, to show us, well, you can do this, or you can do this. Yeah, I'm going to bring this up to you. And if you want to go that way, you can. And you can flow with, once again, law of reflection. I'm going to show you something. Law of resonance. Do you want to come this way with me and be attracted to what I'm doing? Or do you really feel that this is not in your highest, and you can make a different choice? So it's bringing you, once again, the mirror and the resonance. And you've got a choice in both of those things.
It's really beautiful how the conversation has hit on like 3 key points, and how the universal laws sit right in the middle of bringing those points together. In other words, the universal laws are offering us an opportunity to connect more deeply to the spirit, the essence, the truth of who we are.
Yeah.
And from that place, we can meet experiences of vulnerability very differently. And understanding that everything is about the connection that we have to ourselves, to our spirit, whatever word you wish to name as that most precious part of you, the omnipresent part of you that is always going to be and always is. And every time we make that connection, the temperature dial on that vulnerability turns down. And what I mean by that is that when there is a deeper connection with who you truly are, and you can really feel that, then what feels vulnerable when you don't have that connection doesn't feel vulnerable in the same vibrational way when you do have that connection.
Definitely. Because
You
that
know,
connection expands you.
yeah.
It expands your consciousness and lifts your vibration. And that
You
changes
know,
the world.
a really simple example of that, so that listeners can have a sort of a tangible connection to what we're saying. You know, I think back the number of times that, you know, a vulnerability for me would be to feel wrong about, you know, the fear of being wrong, that,
Yep.
you know, and that when you have that fear of being wrong, you either don't speak up or you become so attached to what you believe, and then you defend and you protect, and, you know, then you look at what all that creates for you, rather than being able just to go, you know what if I don't know? And what if I can share that I don't know, and that I don't have that answer, and, you know, what then? And it opens up a whole new potential, a whole new possibility. But at the same time, nor am I riddled with the fear of not knowing,
Yes.
you know, or the fear of being wrong, which of course is all about the vulnerability of being judged and the vulnerability that occurs when you don't have that deeper connection. But every time I come back into a connection with myself, my spirit says, you know what, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay not to know.
That's right. Because spirit doesn't really
And
worry about that too much.
it doesn't. And it's really just wants to open to the potential in the moment.
Yeah.
And so I think, thank you for this conversation. I hope that for those that are wishing to navigate, and anyone who comes to listen to our podcasts are inspired to approach life a little differently, a little more consciously. And so if that is what you feel resonant to, then what are some other ways in which our listeners can learn more about the laws, learn more about their consciousness, learn more about how to come into a deeper connection with themselves, what we might call a deeper sense of self-mastery? How might they go about that?
Well, naturally, I would suggest that they join the Master's Way, which is a course in self-mastery, and, you know, where we teach the universal laws, and we teach not just those two we've spoken about, but all the universal laws and how we interact with them so we can come into self-mastery in our life. But we also teach deeper connection, and we also teach self-realization and many other things as well, as you know. And it's a course that we know changes people's lives, and we see it all the time. And we have at least, I think, 10 teachers now around the world that teach this course, and most of them will be starting up classes in the new year. So that's exciting. There's new classes starting in the new year. So if you want to start something where you can really have that deeper connection, think about the Master's Way. It's in 3 levels: path of light, path of love, and path of mystery. And we know, because it's for years of teaching, that students just love it and come back for more all the time, because it actually changes lives. And
it really does.
It really does. Yeah.
It changes vibration. And when you change the vibration, you change your reality, as you've always said.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So it's certainly something to think about. That's what I would guide people to do, because this doesn't happen, this sort of work doesn't happen over a weekend. It's not a weekend retreat or even a week. It's something that needs ongoing study, ongoing facilitation. And we always do it with a group of students. Every teacher has a big group of students. So you have buddies you work with, and there's always that lovely group energy of everyone learning together, which is so supportive. So it's not something to be taken lightly. It's a deep dive, but it's a worthwhile dive if you really want to change your life.
Yeah, beautiful. And they can learn more through the masterswayschool.com.
Yes, through themastersway.com. No, better off go to the ishtarchannel.com.
And then navigate through the courses.
And go to look at courses.
The courses.
Be told there.
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you so much, as always.
Thank you. Blessings.
Beautiful conversation.
Blessings to everybody. I just want to say to everybody, just keep your hearts open. Don't be frightened to be kind. Don't be frightened to be empathic. Don't be frightened to be loving and to be you. Yeah. Be your natural spirit. Yeah. Blessings.
Thank you.
Thank you.